What are DFCs? DFC, you'll hear DFC more than you will what it stands for, which is desired future condition. It is a future condition of the aquifer that the GMA says this is what we want our aquifers to quote look like, unquote, at some point in the future. Typically, it's the same planning horizon as regional water planning, but right now it's 2070. Our current DFCs are on the left. 5, 15, 62, 100, 240, and 165 feet. Average drawdown across the district from 2000 to 2010. And our proposed DFCs, which we'll get into in a little bit, are on the right. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to interrupt me. I know Director Sherrill said, slow down, answer questions. So I am more than willing, because the whole purpose of this presentation is to make sure people understand what we're talking about. The DFC zones that we talked about, currently our DFCs are a district-wide average drawdown. For many of the aquifers, we cannot or do not and never will have the ability to monitor water levels across the entire district. Especially for the Wilcox aquifers that get very deep as you get towards Fayette County, for example. There are wells down there, and we're never going to know what the well levels are. So the DFC zones focus the calculation of DFCs and the monitoring of DFCs to the zones where we actually have wells, where the users who are using groundwater from these aquifers are located. This is where we need to protect the aquifers. This is also going to be the shallower areas, which is where you get the groundwater surface water interaction, which is also a concern of several people, several times. We'd like the board to kind of okay or approve. I'm not sure if it needs to be official, but we've talked about this several times over the last 3 or 4 years. We'd like to kind of get a buy-off and say, hey, we want to use the DFC zones in this and future rounds of joint groundwater planning. We've talked to different stakeholders. I think there's pretty much a uniform consensus that this is a good idea. The other term that we'll talk about is MAG, another one that you'll hear the acronym more than what it stands for. MAG is Modeled Available Groundwater. It's basically pumpage. If we tell the Water Development Board, our DFC, which is this is what we want our aquifer to look like 50 years in the future, the Water Development Board will come back and say, okay, you can pump this much to get there. And that pumpage becomes the MAG. It's basically the amount of pumping that will achieve the DFC. And the MAGs are determined by the Water Development Board. So basically, we have 5 aquifers in our district that we have to officially include in joint groundwater planning. We did with Jackson, Sparta, Queen City, Carrizo, Wilcox, and the Trinity. That bumps up to 8 because we are handling the Carrizo Wilcox as the Carrizo and the 3 subunits of the Wilcox that cover Bluff and Simsbury. So we have these 8 aquifers that we have included in joint groundwater planning. Real quick, a couple of slides on how our aquifers work and what they look like. They outcrop on the surface, trending from southwest to northeast. You can think of these as layers, kind of a layer cake geology, but instead of them being flat, they're all tilted. So you have the outcrop coming in that direction, and they tilt down towards the Gulf of Mexico. This is from one of the reports, basically showing in the upper left where they're outcropping, and as you head towards the southeast, towards the Gulf of Mexico, these formations get deeper and deeper. This is kind of a cartoon out of a brackish report done almost 20 years ago, showing the Carrizo Wilcox. And again, showing the northwest to southeast, how those formations, this is just showing the Carrizo and the 3 Wilcox aquifers, how they outcrop and then how they dip as you head towards the Gulf Coast. In this formation, in this figure, they show different quality of water. Blue would be fresh water, yellow would be slightly saline, orange would be moderately saline, and red would be saline groundwater. This shows you that where you have the formation outcrop, is where you get the influx of precipitation. That's where your water is fresher. And then as you move down dip, the water has been in the subsurface for longer and longer. It's had more time to interact with the aquifer materials, and they become more and more salient. Also in this formation, in this figure, you can see in a couple of formations, the Simsboro and Carrizo, the depth to which the fresh water goes is much farther down. These formations are much more transmissive. You can get that fresh water that goes farther down. That's why you have deep Carrizo and Hooper well, and Simsboro wells that are producing a lot of water because they're very transmissive, and they are much farther down dip. You will find fresh water, as opposed to Cowboy Bluff and Hooper, where the fresh water is kind of restricted up there around the outcrop and maybe a little bit down there. We'll see that again here in a few slides. So 8 aquifers are included in the joint groundwater planning. And this is the main thrust I wanted to get with this presentation, is to kind of break it down and allow people to understand that they're not all the same. And there's a lot of hand-wringing over what the VFCs are, and we need to make sure that we understand that several of these, a lot of these aquifers are pretty straightforward. There's a couple that we need to be focused on. The first two are really easy. They're non-relevant. We've declared them already non-relevant for planning purposes. Therefore, we don't have VFCs. 4 are pretty straightforward. The pumpage that we're currently proposing using in developing our VFCs is pretty similar to the current bag. The last 2 are the Carrizo. People are, of course, very aware of what's going on with Carrizo. Normally, that would be lumped in with the 4 previous ones, because what we're proposing in the current model run is similar, actually a little lower than what we currently have on books with mags. The issue, of course, is what's going on right across the border and those types of things. So that's why the Carrizo becomes something we need to worry about. And the Simsboro, of course, is our big producer. It is our most prolific aquifer. That's the one that we really need to be focused on. We'll go through each one of these. The easy ones, non-relevant aquifers. It's important to note that this is non-relevant for planning purposes. Our shallowest official aquifer is the Yale Jackson. It's only present in eastern and Lee County. It only has exempt use. There are people that have livestock and domestic wells. There's some rig supply wells. But of course, it's a relevant aquifer for them. But for planning purposes, we have declared this as non-relevant. There's very little use in the planning world. It's not something that we're paying attention to. On the other end is the Trinity. That is our deepest aquifer. That is only something we have to deal with, because way back when the Water Development Rule was drawing the down dip extent, estimated down dip extent of the Trinity, they happened to get into Lee and Bastrop counties a little bit. The Trinity is truly non-relevant. We don't have any wells in the Trinity in our district. There's no use. I don't see anything in the foreseeable future where it will ever be used. It's very deep. It's probably very thin. So that has also been declared non-relevant. So that leaves us 6 aquifers, and we're going to go through these one at a time to try and get everyone to understand kind of the situation with each one of these, because they're a little bit different. We'll start with the Sparta. It is officially a minor aquifer designated by the state of Texas. It has fairly limited historic use. It has quite a few wells. As you can see, they go down dip a fair amount. It doesn't dip as much as some of the other ones. The wells are shallow to moderately deep. Fairly limited number of permits. Lee County Freshwater Supply District has a couple of wells. The Lee County Water Supply Corporation has a few wells. We also have a couple of irrigation permits that were put in when the district was first formed. We only have a little over 1,000 acre-feet total that's permitted in Sparta. And of that, less than 300 acre-feet is actually produced. So we just don't have a lot of use in Sparta. And if you pay attention to the distribution of wells, we'll talk about real quick the proposed DFC zone. That's basically where the wells are located. Those are where our users are, and those are also where we have wells that we can actually monitor water levels in the Sparta. So that's what we would like to use as the DFC zone for the Sparta.
It's a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you know how many wells are in there?
I don't remember how many are in there. I don't know the number. And we're still working through trying to get a handle on all the exempt wells. The wells that were up there are from the TDLR database because we have good screened data and location data. We need to reconcile that with what we have in the Lost Pines database and then start to, one by one, figure out where all the other wells are and what we can find out about them. It's going to be a bit of work.
You know what the depth of those wells are primarily?
What's that?
The depth of those wells.
Most of the Sparta wells are, there are some that are 1,000 feet deep, but most of them are less than 500. So doesn't have really deep wells. The current DSC for the Sparta is 5 feet. The current mags pumpage that was used the last round is about 2,400 feet per year. What we are proposing right now in this S12 run varies from about 1,000 to about 2,750 acre-feet per year. That has resulted in a 22-foot drawdown. If you apply this DFC zone, that drops to 19 feet. So here's where we are. The current mag, I guess you can kind of see that that's red. We have a flat 2,400 acre-foot per year mag. We were dealing with a lot of things the last round, including a kind of odd distribution of pumpage that was used the first time, and this is where we ended up. This last go around, we sat down and we estimated what the pumpage in each one of the wells in the district. Exempt wells were kind of lumped together, and then we looked at all the variety factors for all the permitted wells. And this is what we came up with the spot. So basically, we're pretty much the same. We're starting a lot lower, we're ending a little bit higher. This is what we projected would occur in the Sparta over the next 50 years. Keep in mind that most of that green line on graph is exempt pumpage. We don't have any control over it. It's 300, less than 300 acre feet right now is permanent. So in summary, it's a shallow aquifer in the Sparta. It's present really only in the eastern half of the district. Most of our use is exempt. So overall, very little use. The current DSC is 5 feet. The current mag is 2,400. We're kind of proposing pumpage right now that's pretty similar in magnitude to the current mag. It's not flat, it ramps up, but in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty much where we are right now. The difference for the current DSC and the proposed DSC is primarily due to the new model, not an increase in pumpage. And so the bottom line is, and I've gone back and forth with how we wanted to, or how I wanted to word this. We'd like the board to kind of accept what we've done for the Sparta in Run S12, and then be okay with adopting whatever resulting DFC comes out of it. When we finally get the Carrizo and the Synthro and the other issues worked out, we may not be at 22 feet, we may be at 21 feet, we may be at 23 feet. But so for the board to understand that we don't have a lot we can do with Sparta. I mean, even if we saw we were busting the DSC, even if we eliminated all the permitted pumpage, we'd only be limiting 200 and some odd acre feet per year, which wouldn't have much of an effect. So it's really, we need to just kind of go with Sparta as it is. Queen City. This is going to sound familiar because it's very similar. It's also a minor aquifer, and also it's fairly limited historic use. Lots of wells, shallow to moderately deep hooks. We have limited permits. Town of Lincoln has some wells, and the Lee County Water Supply Corporation also has some wells. Less than 1,000 acre feet per year are permitted. And of that, like the Sparta, less than 300 acre feet per year is of that permit. The permitted pumpage is actually approved. Again, as with Sparta, we wanted to kind of focus our DFC zone where we have wells. Our current DFC for the Queen City is 15 feet. As with the Sparta, we currently have a flat bag of about 1,300 acre feet. What we have proposed when we put together our estimates of ramping up pumpage from now to 2070 is 1,100 by 1,800 acre feet. That resulted in a drawdown of 28 feet, which is about twice what the current DFC is. You apply the zone to it, it drops it just a little.
When was that? When did it drop 20 feet?
Well, no, we apply the DFC zone. In other words, we calculate the draws just where the DFC zone is instead of over the entire district. It decreases the drawdown from.
Did I ask questions at this point, or did I?
I was trying to answer your question.
Okay, I've got more. Can I ask more?
Sure.
This is kind of personal and with the lines here. We have springs that apparently stem from the Queen City Aquifer. Jim tested our water, and I'm concerned that the more you pump from the Carrizo, the Queen City may drop into the Carrizo, but more concerned when you're talking about dropping the level of the Queen City over time, how is that going to affect our springs? And there are a lot of areas that are green right now because the water table is so high there. How are those going to be affected as well when the Queen City Aquifer plummets? I mean, areas that just produce massive amounts of grass, they have a field that you can't drive in, it's so muddy because that water table is so high. How are our properties going to be affected if you drop that level by 28 feet?
Okay, well, 28 feet is what the model is saying is going to be dropped. We'll talk first about your first question was what's going to happen with Carrizo? Is that going to migrate up? That's something that over time you learn whether or not you're going to have this vertical connection. In Gonzales County, there are a couple of Carrizo well fields that have been pumping for about 20 years. They have drawdown in the middle of the well fields of I think about 100 feet. And they are monitoring Queen City above it. In 20 years, they have not been able to tease out any impact of that 100-foot drop in the Carrizo on the Queen City above. So what's being vertically impacted is fairly good.
Make me feel better.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Along the same line, I looked at the DFCs that were, or not the DFCs, excuse me, drawdown that came out of the S3 run, which was a model that was supposed to be, it took the old pumping file from the old can, or the old DFCs,
Well, that's.
and redistributed it pretty much.
I had a question about that because I'm seeing in your report, you're referring to DFC run 3, parentheses S3.
Right.
Those are two completely different runs. S3 does not have the old old mags. S3 is a completely different run. So I needed to find out what you're actually using in your analysis.
Okay.
But regardless, the model, you have to pull it.
My point is that looking at that run 3, those drawdowns in the Sparta and the Queen City went from 5, in Sparta from 5 to 11 foot drawdown. The Queen City was 15 to 14 foot drawdown in the new can. Now, so we've added no pumping in either one of those, and yet we've gone from 11 foot drawdown at that run 3 range to 22 at this 112 range. And on the Queen City, we went from 14 to 28 foot.
Correct.
Double.
Correct.
Where is that water coming from? Is that not likely from either one of two things? Either vertical
Again, you're
movement?
comparing an old model to a new model. And if
I'm comparing run 3 in the new model.
Right.
To,
I don't remember what the numbers are in run 3. to be
well,
really honest.
let's take the numbers.
Well, DFC run 3 or S3?
S3.
Okay.
S3.
All right. So we haven't changed our pumpage, but remember that what our neighbors do affects us.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
That's
I was going to ask.
I don't know what this.
Is that likely some vertical, maybe from the Carrizo where we've increased? And is it some of that likely from Post Oak, who has? They have more drawdown in their area, so the drawdown that we're feeling in those two there are likely from our neighbors or the Green.
Correct. In the model run, it is possible, I don't know what the exact numbers are, that the model is showing migration upwards from the creek. Whether or not that's truly accurate, I don't know. Based on hard data that they've seen in Gonzales County, I would say that there's not going to be a whole lot of migration vertically over, they've had it for a couple of decades. They've got 100 feet of drawdown and they haven't been able to see anything in the Queen City Belt. So that may be one of these cases where when you build the model, you have to put something in terms of its vertical connection.
Right.
You make a little number and you run the model for 50 years with a lot of pumpage and you'll get some stuff moving through. Whether or not that accurately reflects what will happen, I don't know. Based on what I've seen in Gonzales County, maybe they need to tighten up that vertical connection more and reduce that. So that's what the model's saying.
It may get different data in the future, but for now, that's what it's predicted.
That's what it's predicting. Yes, ma'am.
So whose model is this? I'm sorry, I'm not a.
The Texas Water Development Board is.
So they did this model, this S12?
They contracted it out, and it
Uh-huh.
was done by Interra, and it was finished in 2017 or 18, and then it had a slight update in 2020, where they incorporated some new data that they'd gotten out of the Vista Ridge well field in Simsburg.
Does it just cover our GMA? Or is it the whole?
Pretty much. It extends a little farther on either end. It'll extend down into Gonzales County and such. We don't pay attention a whole lot to that. We try to replicate what we think pumpage is, so we get the boundary conditions on our coming into Bastrop County on either end, but other than that, it will extend farther out.
So just for instance, on the Queen City, the current mag, 13, 15 acre feet a year. What was the one when we formulated our current DFCs? What was
I've
that?
got a,
Wait, don't leave, don't answer.
Okay.
Don't forget to answer my question about if we drop it 28 feet, how's it going to affect the moisture content from high water table and from our springs?
what you're seeing a lot of, I think, in terms of not being able to, you've got several different types of flow regimes that might contribute to springs that you see. When you get precipitation infiltrating into the subsurface, some of that is going to be deep recharge. Some of that is actually going to start migrating laterally and discharging along inside stream valleys. So you kind of get a spectrum from those shallow, short duration flow paths, medium ones, and then deep ones that'll go regional. So when you say you're out in the field and you're not able to drive, a lot of that's going to be more what's going on in the shallow flow system. That will be much more impacted by droughts as it dries up. That's gonna go away. The stuff that's moving in the subsurface will move to those inside stream valleys, and then it'll slow down. Like you get a whole bunch of rain again, it'll kind of recharge that. And then there's a component of that goes into the subsurface that's not going laterally, that's heading more directly down. Is true recharge to these regional lines.
I think you're absolutely right. So what happens when we drop it 28 feet? Are we still going to have that flow caused by rains? And what about the spring that's flowed for 100 years?
You still will have those flows that the shallow flow system is always going to be there, even if you drop the regional flow system 28 feet, because you're still going to have that precipitation that happens on the outcrop that's moving to the subsurface. Some of it's going to go laterally, and some of it's going to go down. So you'll still have that dynamic is always going to be there. What's going to change is as you drop the water table, you will have a little bit more of the stuff that goes into the subsurface will go deeper and recharge that for a little more. If there are real springs that are truly discharging from the deep regional aquifers, that might be affected. I don't know without looking at the spring itself whether or not that's how much of that is a component of the shallow flow system versus the deep. A lot of these springs are kind of both. You'll get where you have, anywhere where you have kind of a nice incised valley, you're going to have water that's coming in from basically laterals, anywhere from, a quarter mile away, which is basically gone in subsurface and moved towards those topographic discharge areas. So you kind of have a spectrum, and without looking at individual springs, I wouldn't be able to tell you what's going on.
Don't you have a fairly high rate of discharge in your spring?
Yes, about 800 gallons a minute,
Wow.
because we've got a lot of flow.
And I know that there's a property south of you on County Road 333, there's 3 or 4 springs on this one property, and I know, this is my visual, that I think it discharges 40 or 50 gallons a minute to 3 or 4 springs, and they're right together.
I worry about what's gonna happen off a couple of that out. That's what scares me.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. Again, this is what the model is saying is going to happen, this 28 feet.
I'm sorry, I'm still trying to understand why you're saying the current DFCs will not work with the new mag, and because I don't understand that, I was asking you.
That's not with the new mag, not with the new mag, it won't work with the new model. Okay, we have a
I
model
thought
that.
the model was modeled available groundwater.
Correct. The
Yes.
new model was developed in 2018. So we have a brand new model as of 2018. The current DFCs and mags were developed in 2016. So they were developed with an older version of the model.
And I was just asking, like, for instance, on the Queen City, current mag, 13, 15 acre feet a year. So what, is this more sophisticated than the other one, or it just came up with different numbers?
Incorporates the latest data and information we have on these aquifers. So yes, you might consider that it is the best current science, the best current understanding on how these aquifers work. And when I say it won't work, what we tried to do when the model was first developed, the new model, is I went in to try to match these current DSCs, 15 feet for this Queen City, 5 feet for the Sparta. I eliminated all the pumpage in the Sparta. I eliminated all the quick pumpage in the Queen City. I still couldn't get to 15 and 5 feet. So there's, that was where we couldn't make it work. The numbers were going to come out bigger. We're not changing the pumpage in our new run. And here's the pumpage that we used the last time around in red. And here's the pumpage we're using now. But basically, it's pretty much the same. I mean, it's 500 acre feet per year difference in 2070, which is not much. And most of that green line is exempt pumpage. It's not something we have any control over. It's exempt. We have no ability of saying you have to cut that back. We only have the ability of cutting back 250 acre feet right now of that green line. So there's not much we can do. There's just, most of the use in this aquifer is exempt in our district.
I don't know, just, in the Sparta, it goes up 4 times, 400% higher. In Queen City, it doubles. Carrizo, it doubles, between the two, between the current DFCs and the proposed ones. And I don't understand how there could be that big a gap in this.
It's the model. I mean, we haven't changed what's going in, and we're getting different numbers coming out because we have a new model.
But it's really just software and computers, and it's not real. Right? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm from another.
No, I understand, because, and this is an easy thing to kind of get kind of hung up on, because a lot of people look at it and say, the model's right, the model says it's so, therefore it's so. And all of a sudden we've got a new model, and it's like, well, this model says it's so, therefore it's so, but it doesn't match up with the old model that said it's so, therefore it's so. So you have to kind of look at, it's a model, it's using the best available data when it was developed, that has changed, the results out of the model are changed. We gotta be careful about hanging our hat on, the model says it's so, therefore it's so. It's a tool, and it's only as good as the data that goes into it, and it has its limitations. Yes,
Isn't
sir.
that the conundrum that we're in relative to the old model gave us a drawdown of so many feet? The new model gave us a drawdown, and the new model is using more information, finer tuning, and things of that nature. And it's giving us a different set of numbers.
Correct.
But rather than saying, okay, the amount of water that is being pumped or available as a mag is what, that stayed fairly constant. So why is it that we didn't adopt the new number of feet of drawdown as being, you know, the new representation of the old mag? Or the old, I mean, the old.
Well, that's where we are, is we want to, what we're hoping is that we have a recognition that we haven't changed what's going in the Queen City.
In the Queen.
But we're gonna have a new number. We need to kind of just roll it.
Well, there's two, and I think what we are learning with the new model is that there's two things going on. One is the model has changed those drawdowns, and number two, the model recognizes more flow out.
I haven't done an analysis of changes in Queen City and I know in Fayette County they haven't changed much. But I don't know about Post Oaks there. I don't know about that. Now, with Crezo, that's different. We know what's going on with Crezo. That's why it's kind of a different thing.
It wasn't part of the model. Wasn't expected, right?
Well,
There's a lot of drop on the other side of 77. I don't think anybody anticipated.
we'll get there. I don't want to say it wasn't expected. It was not included in the previous iteration of joint groundwater plan, and that's why we got ourselves in a little bit of
One that, just because I'm a little slow, what is the reason we cannot use the red line for
We could,
the pumping file for the proposed DFCs?
we could, but at this point, again, we've got to make it by January 5th. The green line is what we're working with. The green line shows a realistic ramp up, because remember, a lot of that ramp up is going to be occurring with exempt pumpers, so there we go. If we put the red line in there, I don't think we're making a difference. But we're there. I like, personally, I'm like, that looks good. We should have done that the last time. We were fixing other problems the last time. There was some really bizarre pumpages used in the first round. And that's where we ended up with. But I think that the green line represents kind of what I think might happen in the Queen City over 50 years. We'll move on through the other two. I'll try to go a little quicker if I can.
I'll just make one comment on that. That's the green line is where we think actual pumping will be, and then Kate's question is, where do we want to be? So So
Well, remember, this is green line is pumped.
right, but there's like, where do we want to be as a district? This is our desire.
That's in terms of water levels in the aquifer.
His desire is that his spring flows.
Correct.
Right.
If I can make a point here, the point Andy's been trying to bring up with these graphs is what we're seeing in these growth. That's 95% growth in domestic usage.
Right.
That's not new permits, that's not new development. So when you start talking about where do we want that pumping to be, you're kind of backdoor talking about trying to limit population growth within these counties as well. So we just need to be aware that that is the implication if you start talking about, because we're talking, this is mostly domestic use. So, you just gotta kind of be aware that that's the implication of what you're discussing when you talk about trying to, because you're not just talking about limiting non-exempt usage, you're talking about where we want to be as domestic use. So,
No, I
so that's a whole different planning question for the counties in terms of.
Yeah, that's a kind of thing. The groundwater district has no say over domestic livestock exempt use. I mean, it's exempt. We can't say to somebody who's on a domestic well, it's exempt, you need to cut your
Well,
water.
we need to preserve the water for them too, for
Yes,
future growth.
that's true. But what we're seeing here is this green line are those people. That line represents mostly exempt use. It's mostly the domestic livestock, maybe a couple irrigation wells, rig supply wells that they come and go. That's what that line represents. There's less than 300 acre feet now of that 1,100 or 1,200 that we started in 2020. Less than 300 is permitted use, and that's too small, or that's Lee County freshwater and Lee County water supply. So we're not talking about a lot. Let's work our way into, I'm going to try to get through the Calvert Bluff and the Hooper real quick. They're similar. Well, this, okay. Queen City, same sort of thing. Shallow aquifer, mostly exempt, very little use overall. Current DFC mag. The proposed pumpage is pretty similar to the current, and the difference is primarily due to that pumping model and not really not increasing pumpage. And as with the Queen City, we kind of hoping that the board would say, that pumpage that we're using is okay, we'll go ahead and run with whatever comes out of the model from that. Calvert Bluff, this is part of the Green Wilcox, which is a major act for the state. It has moderate historic use, moderate number of wells. Wells are shallow to moderately deep. Fairly limited permits. Bastrop County WCID is number 1 and 2. Aqua water supply has 3 wells and a few smaller permits. Got almost 5,500 acre feet per year permitted in the Calvert Bluff. Only about 20% of that is actually produced. So, not a lot. As you'll notice, where our wells are here, and this is again kind of where we wanted to be doing our GFC zone. It doesn't extend as far down as it does in other aquifers. Our current DFC is 100 feet. Our current mags are 2,000 to 4,000 acre feet per year. What we put into the model run at the moment is 2,000 to 5,500 acre feet per year. You'll see this in a minute. With a drawdown of 156 feet, and if you apply that zone, it's a drawdown of 83 feet. So here's a graph of the current mag in red and the proposed pumpage in green. I don't remember what happened with the red when we were putting that together. I don't think I adjusted the pumpage at the end of the run because of the Water Development Board rejecting our DFCs the last time it first. But basically, up until 2050, they matched perfectly, and then we're just continuing that upward trend.
Andy, concerning the Calvert Bluff pumpage, can you give us a rough idea of how much of that is coming out of Lee and then Bastrop?
Lee and Bastrop, I don't know. The permits are mostly in. Are all in Bastrop County. Is there one in Lee County?
In this difference from your last.
Okay, I'm not sure if that's an irrigation permit, but anyway, so most of the permitted pumpage will come out of Bastrop County, and I want to say it's about 50-50 in terms of permitted pumpage versus exempt pumpage. So 2/3 to 3/4 is going to come out of Bastrop County, I think. That's just off the cuff. I don't have those broken down by county a whole lot. So I don't know, I don't look at that much, so I don't know Lee versus Bastrop. Off the top of my head. So the summary, Calvert Bluff is present most of the district. Most of the groundwater use is in and near the outcrop. About half is exempt, about half is permitted. Overall, fairly limited use. Current DFC of 100 acre feet with a mag of 2,000 to 4,000. The proposed mag is identical basically through 2050, and then it increases up to 2070. The DFC versus the proposed DFC difference, probably impact of what's going on in the Carrizo and the Carrizo, which is about it, and the Simsboro line. So we'll talk about that. Yes, sir.
I was pointing, so when I'm looking at the well plotted, there's about 300 exempt wells divided between Bastrop and Lee counties. And so even in the DFC zone, you're talking about 83 feet of drawdown. And that, I mean, you know, domestic well, you've got 100 feet ahead above your pump normally. And so that's going to require 300 wells to be remediated to keep functioning.
All right.
So that's just saying those are implications, even though that's looking at saying that there's not much use, there's not permitted use in that area, but it is being used by 300 people.
Correct.
and they're all gonna have to move their pumps with
Right.
these proposed numbers.
I'm not sure how to get away from these proposed numbers. I mean, this is what the model is showing. We're not. The use in the Calvert Bluff is not very much. Again, it's about half exempt. We have no control over that. The half that's permitted, again, it's, Bastrop County WCID number 1, Bastrop County WCID number 2, it's all local use. They're not hammering it. They're not sending it anywhere. They're getting it installed right there. It's a matter of what's the, we're gonna have a big component of that is gonna be there anyway because it's exempt. So, not sure what to say. So yeah, there are impacts. Yes, sir.
It seems that bottom line there, where the difference in what's going on here is in Calvert Bluff, is due to what's going on in some.
Well, remember the model's showing
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, and those communicate, so whenever we start pumping heavy into Simsboro, that affects Calvert Bluff, and that affects the Calvert and the Carrizo. And when our neighbors start pumping heavy into Carrizo, that works back also into the Calvert Bluff. So, I mean, part of the answer that you said you didn't know is to not, permit as much pumping or allow as much pumping in the Simsboro to start with. And-
We'll get to the Simsboro.
Right.
Okay, this is, I guess what I'm driving at here is, what Calvert Bluff is kind of doing what the Calvert Bluff is going to do. It's going to be driven a lot by the decisions made in the Carrizo and the decisions made in the Simsboro. So let's not get hung up on what's going on in the Calvert Bluff. Let's just kind of figure out the Simsboro, figure out the Carrizo, and then go with what the Calvert Bluff results.
But those folks in the Calvert Bluff have to be worried about what those others are going to do.
According to the model, yes.
And
Yeah,
what we're seeing actually in wells going dry in Carrizo and Lee County is telling us that the model's not too far off.
No. That's not true because you're talking about vertical communication versus lateral communication. So there's a big
But
difference.
both of them are really impacting the people that have those wells.
No, in Lee County, what's going on is we have Carrizo wells that are dropping dramatically because of Carrizo pumpage across it. So there's not a vertical. It's
Yeah.
vertical in terms of it's moving up dip, but it's all in the same. It's not moving up to other formations above or below.
What I'm talking about, what is projected in the DFC S12 run, the S7 run. all
There's a-
those projected,
there's a- there's a-
gonna be
there's a
more
small impact.
From the increased pumping in the Simsboro on the Calvert Bluff.
Yeah, it'll show that. I don't know how much, I don't know the magnitude, I don't know how much is going to occur. Of course, Calvert Bluff is 1,000 to 1,200 feet thick. How much of that transmits all the way up to the top of the Calvert Bluff versus the lower parts of the Calvert Bluff? There's a lot of questions.
Yeah,
I mean, one of the things I just talked to Jim about the other day was it would be interesting when we get these projects, if they actually get online and we start producing, is to put in a deep and a slightly less deep Calvert Bluff well, to see if we can see any trend, because that's, you brought this up many times. The only way we're going to find out is put in a well and see if you're actually starting to see it over time. You're never going to see transmission of that impact in a 30-day pump test. You can't. You're not going to see. You're never going to see it. You're going to need to see
long term.
long term.
But we are in the planning phase, and we need to keep in mind what that plan is telling us. The impacts might be over here on these other.
So with the Calvert Bluff, basically the bottom line is we've got a pumpage. We think it reflects accurately what we're going to have as a ramp up over 50 years. Calvert Bluff drawdowns are going to be the result of the Carrizo and the Simsboro, so we need to figure those two out and kind of go with what we got in front of us. Fourth one's the Hooper. bottommost aquifer, sub-aquifer in the Hooper. I mean, the Wilcox, limited historic use, low to moderate number of wells. Most of them are shallow and near the outcrop. There are a few permits, Danville's got a couple, Aqua's got a few, some smaller permits. 2,700 acre-feet per year are permitted. About a third of that is actually produced. And as you can see where the wells are, that's kind of where our proposed DFC zone is. Our current DFC is 165 feet, current mags 700 to 1,250. Our current pumpage in the model is 1,700 to 3,300, and our drawdown is almost the same, it's 174 feet. And if you remember how much of the district we cut off with the DFC zone, we applied DFC zone to it, it's 43 feet. So this is the current mags versus the proposed pumpage. It's kind of important to note that when we had the Water Development Board at the very last minute reject our proposed pumpage because of the DFCs we adopted, I had to go in and adjust the Simsboro and Hooper to make it work. And I cut that red line is basically the Hooper cut in half of what we planned. So what we have now is basically pretty close to reflective of what we had originally planned in Hooper.
The Hooper is cut in half.
The Hooper pumpage, so the mag is half.
The mag is half.
The mag is half of what we initially anticipated.
But that had to do with cutting the Simsboro back to get.
No, that had to do with the adopted numbers in the second round. We had to make it work.
What does that say about the Hooper? I mean, the pumpage is so much higher than the mag.
Yeah, it's, the
On
current,
your
the current,
chart, it said 713 is the mag and 1690 is the pumpage for 2020.
right,
It seems upside down.
that was what we had to do to kind of make it work the last time.
So it can be manipulated.
Yeah. We were anticipating different adopted DSCs than we ended up with, and we had to make the pumpage work when the board came back and said it would work.
In the previous planning cycle, the board made changes, and around this time in the planning cycle, we submitted those changes along with the pre-developed pumping file, and Water Development Board came back and said, that's not feasible, these numbers don't work together. And so in order to make the pumping file work with the DFCs adopted by the board, those changes had to be made to the projected pumping for the Hooper in that cycle. And so part of it is an artifact of how the older model predicted production impacts in the Hooper, and part of it was changes just because, again, we had planned on something more similar to the green line, but the board wanted a number that was closer to the previous DFC cycle, and so the only way to make the numbers the board adopted work with the pumping file in the last cycle was to make those cuts. So what you're seeing here with that green line is what would have been in the previous cycle if we had stuck with the numbers that came out of that planning cycle rather than making the change at the last minute.
Well, I know you say that you have no control over exempt wells, but I think you probably have a lot of exempt wells in the Hoover. And do you ever, I think you can also consider that in formulating your DFCs, the exempt wells. And I noticed we went up from July, we did 10 wells, and in August permitted 23 wells. So I just feel like there's more people coming into our district and wanting to drill wells and a lot of exempt wells. And you're saying we have no control over exempt wells, but I'm real concerned about this. I feel like Alice in Wonderland talking to the Mad Hatter.
So, if I may, Director Rogers, yes, we don't have any real control over the drilling of exempt wells. We set spacing rules, which basically establishes a minimum lot size based on state restrictions. But beyond that, as long as the well can, as long as somebody can fit a well on a plot of land and meet those restrictions, that's really all the say we have in that. So again, when we talk about trying to, especially when we're looking at these formations where the majority of growth is driven by domestic wells, the only, when you start talking about trying to cut that or regulate that, you're really talking about cutting population growth and development in the counties.
I wasn't talking about cutting the exempt wells, but I was talking about permitting big wells out there in that area. If you know an area is like this, and then somebody comes in and wants to put in a big commercial well, are you gonna get to reflect on this at that time, or you say, well, they're just exempt wells?
So these are, like I said, these are, we have projections about what we think can happen to exempt wells. And we can look at, what the current conditions are, but that's part of the permitting process, that's a consideration that y'all as a board would look at. We would come in, we would process it, and go, this is what we think the impact of adding that well, for example, in the Hooper, with the manhole permit that we had earlier this summer. We can look at what we think the impacts of that additional production would be on the DFCs. But overall, that ultimately becomes a decision for the board. But when we talk about regulating exempt pumpage, and I completely understand, I mean, the growth that we're looking at, the number of wells that are being drilled, it gets kind of mind-bending pretty quickly, and I don't think that's gonna slow down. But a lot of that's gonna come down to, the county development codes and the county development standards. That's where we're gonna be able to see some more of that regulation. The other possibility is moving towards a system more of distributed water systems where you have small Lee County water supply aqua wells that serve a neighborhood. So that way they're still being served by a non-exempt well. But these are issues that are outside of kind of the DOC. These are planning for future growth and how we want to handle that.
Well, socioeconomic conditions are within the DFC, because I read it right here
Yes, sir.
in the water code, chapter 36.
Yes, sir.
And also spring floods, by the way.
Yes, but and again, the point that we're trying to get to tonight is, to summarize, Andy, if I can, is basically we've got 6 DFCs. We've got 4 of them that are largely driven by growth of exempt wells. So, we don't need to throw out those 4 babies with the bathwater of concerns about the Simsboro and the Carrizo. Yes, there are issues with the growth of exempt wells, but that is something that has to be handled really through the county level, not through the district. We don't have under Chapter 36 a right to regulate how people put in exempt wells. And we also don't have the right to manage that production beyond some very, very narrow frameworks that are set up in Chapter 36. So,
I just get clarification, the DFC is a regulation?
I'm sorry?
You said several times that you cannot regulate exempt wells. So you're saying that this pumpage regulates how much can be pumped?
So what I'm saying is that if the day comes that we're approaching the DFC, we can tell every permit holder to cut back, but we can't come to your house and tell you to cut back. So exempt wells are exempt from regulation. So that growth of exempt wells, that's production growth that we cannot control.
I want to interrupt. We've gotten pretty far off track here. And so any discussion about the permitting of these exempt wells, getting into the details of qualifications for that, curtailments of exempt users, I mean, curtailments would be district-wide. So I want to get away from that and get back to Andy's presentation.
But may I say that we do need to plan for those exempt wells that be coming on?
Well, that's what
Make
we're
sure
trying
that
to
we're
agree
not
on.
over permitting someplace else and don't have the water treatment wells.
I will say the modeled available groundwater numbers do include
Yeah.
exempt and non-exempt
But with that
for
green
planning.
line, the green line is what we are projecting now, and that includes that growth for example. Hooper, present throughout most of the district, but it's mostly used up in the outcrop. Most of the use is exempt, limited. Hose pumpage is slightly higher than the current bag. Note that the current bag was half of what was originally planned. And the DSC versus what we got right now are pretty close. And we like the board to kind of accept what we've done with road test qual for the Hooper and adopt whatever results in the DFC, keeping in mind that the Hooper pumpage is not going to change. We're not going to change that green line in terms of what we put in. The drawdowns might change depending on what happens with the Simsboro based on the model. All right, so those are the 4 easy ones. Let's go to Carrizo Aquifer, which would be easy. As we'll see in a minute, but we do have a slight curveball. Carrizo Aquifer is part of Carrizo Wilcox. It has moderate historic use, low to moderate number of wells, shallow to deep. We have some pretty deep Carrizo wells. Cities of Giddings, Smithville, Lexington use the Carrizo, Aqua, A&E, County Water Supply corporations, and we have several smaller permits in the Anderson, things like that, that Carrizo permits. We currently have 14,500 acre feet per year permitted. In the higher production years in the last 10 years, we've produced a little less than 4,000. Most of the time, it's 3,000 in non-drought years. Proposed DFC zone basically covers where we have most of our wells. Our current DFC is 62 feet. Our current bags are 7,500 to about 12,000 acre feet per year. The current model pumpage, we put in 4,700 to about 13,000 acre feet per year. It results in a drawdown of 139 feet. We apply that zone to it, it's 94. So here is what we're putting into the model. The red line above is the current bag. And what we're proposing, what we put into the model right now is the green line. So basically, we're kind of under it. We end up in 2070 slightly over it, but we're proposing a lower number for the most part than the current bags. This is what we think is going to happen in the Carrizo over the next 50 years. So with that respect, Carrizo is kind of lumped into the other ones. We're basically where we are right now with respect to the bags. The curve line. Vista Ridge, it's a central issue for GMA 12. We've been through this. I talked about it. We talked about it before. I talked about it at the DFC workshop. Drawdowns are significantly higher this round in planning than Vista Ridge pumpage, which was not fully included in the previous well simulations. Pleasant Savannah wishes to have a DFC of 145 feet drawdown in Carrizo, and to do this, they need to restrict the Carrizo pumpage in the GMA well now 12,000 acre feet per year in the entire district. Note that there's 15,000 acre feet per year coming out of those 9 wells. So their total bags would even cover that pumpage. The other 4 districts, including Lost Pines, is voted to include the actual known pumpage to be used in the planning process. Again, this ridge is about 15,000, plus there's a little bit more in the rest of the district. And current proposed DFCs are based on all actual pumpage. This is kind of the crux of the issue. Post Oak Savannah wants to limit their DFCs. The other 4 districts have said we need to appropriately plan, we need to use actual known pumpage. When I talked about this in the July workshop, we had the same kind of discussion coming up amongst board members, and President Talbot was saying we need to include known pumpage if we're going to properly plan. Other people had different opinions, so there's really no right or wrong answer. It's how do we do this appropriately? It's for each person to kind of understand. I can understand both those positions. I can understand everyone else's.
So my concern there is that we have an issue with Post Oak, and rather than resolving that issue in a way that it works for all 5 districts, we're supposed to be working together to come up with something that's workable and physically feasible for all of us. The answer is to force our way onto.
That was what happened at the previous one. We're still in the process of working through that. There's a meeting coming up for GMA's 12, and I'm sure this will be something that we will talk about. I'm not sure. I mean, there's been lots of discussions, and I don't know where it's going to end up. I'm not, it's not my place to say how it's going to end up. I'm a technical consultant, and here to kind of support whatever we end up doing.
But on that second point there, one of the aspects of that is the reason that all that pumping wasn't included in the previous files was because the desired future condition that Post Oak wished to have was not going to support that much pumping, and they told Mr. Ridge when that was part of what Mr. Ridge.
I don't know what their district told
Well,
Mr. Ridge.
that's what they have told all the other 4 districts in the GMA 12 meetings, that's what the case was, and in fact, the amount of pumping that they put in, or the amount of land that they wanted in that, was quite a bit lower in the,
Significantly.
current
Yeah.
average season condition, currently adopted by.
Correct. I mean, I think it ramped up to, I want to say 7,000 by 2070, so not much. I don't remember what the number was.
They ramped up to about 7,500.
Right, so,
But now, and they wanted to go to about 12,000 in their desire for the future. And rather than that, we have imposed on them to put 18,000 in there, which is causing us to have water flowing from Lee County into Post Oak.
oh, keep in mind,
Well,
keep in mind what actual water flowing from Lee County to Post Oak, Savannah is occurring because of what is actually happening on the ground in those wells. So whether or not that's
Actual
pumping, right, actual pumping.
Right.
So,
Their desired future conditions was one thing, they have the triggers coming off so that they can start taking action to.
they have the ability to take
They have
action.
the ability to take
Like,
action.
one of the central arguments is that Post Oak Savannah has the ability to take actions to limit those permits several different ways besides the GMA process.
But you want to dictate to them.
I don't, I'm not, don't
Well,
ask me
I'm
about.
not saying you personally, I'm saying we as a district are trying to dictate to them that the way that they've always planned on doing it isn't okay. We're going to force you to use some other tools that you haven't put in your plan.
I
For the last
get it.
20, 15 years.
It's not my place to.
Well,
Take
it's
those
this board's
decisions.
place to make those kind of decisions.
So anyway, that's where we are with the Carrizo. It's present in most of the districts. Most groundwater is in and near the outcrop, but there are several deeper permitted wells. Most of the use is non-exempt, and it's got a moderate amount of use. Our current bags are 62 feet. I mean, current DC is 62 feet. The bags that we're proposing are actually a little lower than what we currently own. Look, this ridge is an issue, and proposed DSC is higher, a little bit due to the new model, but also this ridge is causing us to be significantly higher. So the bottom line, I think we'd like the board to say we're okay with what we've included for Lost Pines in terms of those bottom runs. And then the board needs to figure out what position to take with respect to Post Oak Savannah and Vista Ridge. And then we'll just go with that. But I don't see, I mean, we've actually lowered the amount of pumpage that we've included for our runs, so I don't know if that's really an issue for it all revolves around our name. Now, the one that we do need to be considering carefully, this is where the focus should be. Simsboro, part of the middle, part of the Wilcox, highly prolific, significant historic use. Moderate number of wells. The wells are shallow to quite deep. Permits the cities of Hutto, Bastrop, Elgin, Manville and Alcoa Water Supply Corporations, Recharge, formerly NDOT, LCRA, Alcoa, Thomas Turf Grass. We have several smaller permits, and we also have a large pending permit, which we are all aware of. We've got just shy of 100,000 acre feet per year permitted. We're producing currently about 20,000 acre feet per year. It's been trending up in the last few years. It went way down when we stopped adding some of the mining pumpage, and now it's been going back up. DFC zone is going to cover most of our wells. It's not covering all of them. We have some deep wells that are outside, but there's really no shallow wells around those, so we did not extend those down to there. Our current DFC, where we stand right now, is 240 feet. Our current bags are 30 to 35,000 acre feet per year. What we put into the asphalt bottle run is 24 to 126,000 acre feet per year. It bumps up, as we'll see in a second, in 2030 as we incorporate it in the two phase permits, gatehouse and recharge, which were both included in this run. Our S12 drawdown is 313 feet. If you apply the DFC zone to that, it drops to about 200. So here is our pumpage. We've got the current mag down here, we've got proposed pumpage. We don't have gatehouse, that's changed at the moment. It's down there, so we end up at about 100,000 acre feet. These numbers are a lot bigger than all of the other aquifers. These numbers, the Sims Pro the Sims Pro is where we should be, where our focus should be. I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, this is the main aquifer. This is what is the most prolific aquifer. It's the one that's used the most. You saw those other pumpages where you had 1,000 acre feet per year in the Queen City that's permitted in 300 acre feet per year. I've got some charts we can look at if you want. They really are minor compared to what we're doing in this. The same next door in the Post Oaks Dam. The Sims Pro is a highly productive aquifer across our GA.
So we're about to pump massive amounts from that Simsboro. Do we know how much water is going to communicate vertically from the upper aquifers down into the Simsboro?
We can only speculate. We can only guess based on what the model's showing. And above the Simsboro vertically, we have the Calvert Bluff, which is a fairly tight aquifer. It's 1,000 to 1,200 feet thick. So how much of that transmits all the way up through the Calvert Bluff, I don't know. As I said earlier, when we were talking, when we get some large projects online, we want to look at different levels of Calvert Bluff to see what's actually moving. That's the only way we're really going to find out, and the only way we can really tune in our models. Right now, we can make estimates on what the vertical connectivity is, but we don't have a whole lot of data that actually calibrates that.
Shouldn't we go slow until we know? Wow.
Well, I can understand.
Damn late.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Damn late.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Have you given any thought to the Alcoa and their 12 new wells that they want to permit right on the Lee County line?
Yes. That change of use, I did call the consultant for Post Oaks and Anna on my way over here. That permit, the change of use has been approved. Yeah, there's going to be.
And they're going to be sucking right out of the outcrop. They're going to have water coming down, and they're going to have 12 wells. And they're going to be right on the Lee County line, and we're going to have another sinking situation with that rule of capture coming in down to the northwestern part of Lee County from Alcoa.
There will definitely be.
And
Yeah,
like Linda
there'll
said,
be a
and it'll be too late.
No, too damn late.
But again, we have no control over that.
That is correct. That is a Post Oaks and Anna thing.
And that's why we need to look at it. You know,
That's what
like,
they-
whoa. Let's look at this a lot closer.
I understand. I'm from the perspective of what we're doing here now. So I mean, yeah, it's complicated, and I don't have an answer in terms of what to do. I'm just a technical guy.
I know we're fixing to get really tight, and I'm one of those people right in the middle of all this mess. Am I going to have to drill 1,000-foot well so I can supply my little house and my few cows? Are y'all going to pay for that? You know, the board's going to drill me a well, $50,000 or more?
If I can speak to one thing, the question about going slowly, I mean, that is part of the reason that these bigger permits are phased, to allow us time to gather some of that data and see what's going on at each tier of production and evaluate some of those impacts. So while that is we model the ramp up as going at full possible speed, at the end of the day, there are multiple tiers built into those permits to give us time to watch how production comes online.
I also know that I don't have that many more years left in this world, but I've got family that's going to get that land. There's other people buying, spending, this way this stuff is rocketing up. And then, they might even have any water to, utilize hardly. With a piece of property up there in this area and other areas. I mean, we're in a big stinking mess. And that's just my personal feelings about the whole thing.
Andy, are we getting close to the end?
Yes, we are. Simsboro Aquifer summary, present in most of the districts. Deep, highly productive wells. It is our most productive aquifer, significant use. Most of these is permitted. DFC is 240 feet right now. Proposed MAG is significantly higher than the current MAG due to the export permits approved since the last round of planning. This results in higher drawdown. It's important to note that the new model does allow more pumpage with the same drawdown. This is the one where we really need to be focusing our attention. You know, we talked about the Cotton Bluff and Hooper kind of reacting to what happens in the Simsboro. We need to figure out what we want the Simsboro to be. And we'll make it work. We just need direction. We need to know what the board thinks in terms of where we want to go with it. And we'll make it work, noting that drawdowns in the Cotton Bluff and the Hooper, based on the model run, will change slightly based on what the board does with the Simsboro. So in summary, we're adopting DFCs for 6 aquifers. The current MAGs for 5 of our aquifers are pretty similar to what we put into pumpage in the current model runs. The drawdowns in these 5 aquifers are different for several reasons. The new model pumpage outside of the district. Simsboro is the exception. A higher pumpage in new projects has increased the drawdown. Most important takeaways. January 5th, it is written in statute. We have to work within GMA 12. Getting more direction on DFCs is critical. 4 of the 6 aquifers appear to be fairly straightforward to me, anyway, with respect to the DFCs and MAGs. The amount of pumpage that's included in the model run is low. Good deal of that is exempt. Those 4 are really not ones that we need to be worried about and focusing on too much. Carrizo would be one of those 4, but we've got the issue of this ridge. And the Simsboro is the one that we have where we have a lot of use, and that's the one that's going to drive a lot of what goes on. And the board needs to understand or to focus that and figure out what DFC is acceptable. And I believe that is the end of our presentation.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that you've got, drawdown is based upon the level of the water that's in the well shaft. So the pressure from the aquifer drives the water up the well shaft to within a certain feet of the surface.
Yes.
So when you pump out of a well that's in one of these aquifers, you're really pumping out of an aquifer that's 100% full.
Correct. Oh, full in terms of saturated.
All
Yes.
of the aquifers are 100% full anytime that you're measuring drawdown.
Yes and no. In the outcrop area, that's actually not the case. That's where you've got unconfined storage. But once you get down a bit, and you get to where the aquifer is down here and the water level is way above it, yeah, when you pump, you're getting a drawdown, which is really basically a pressure reduction, and you're not actually dewatering the pores of the aquifer.
Right. So my question gets around to why is there a difference between the drawdown in the suggested DFC? Why is it different in the DFC zone? Because it's the same aquifer.
It's just the distribution of drawdowns across the aquifer are not uniform. So where you have, for example, because of where pumping is in, so you may or may not be eliminating areas that are having, and just the nature of the aquifer, you get different drawdowns in those deeper areas than you will in the shallow areas. So you basically, the DFC zones are basically allowing you to focus on where you have wells, where you have exempt users and a lot of permanent users that we want to protect, and where we're actually going to be able to monitor the water. This is
And that was part of the model that was done too? The DFC zones are part of the model?
No. DFC zones is simply a different way to calculate the results that are coming out of the same model. So instead of averaging all the water levels, because the model has cells and active cells and water levels all the way down to Fayette County line. So model, I can calculate exactly how much drawdown is gonna occur because I have all these model cells. In reality, there are wells down there, there never will be, right? So we wanted to remove that bias because this really, that's something we're never gonna look at. We're never gonna be able to look at.
What do you think about the zone or the drawdown from the?
Right now, the bags are based on a district-wide average. What we're hoping is that we get the okay to move forward with calculating those averages in the zones instead of the whole district.
Was this DFC?
For this round, that's where we would hope to go.
So,
So it is district only, not.
Well, I understand that.
so Steve, basically it's a two-part process. One would be adopting the DFCs, and then once the DFCs are adopted, we have to update our management plan. We would update the management plan to include the concept of zones, which would then refine those numbers that we managed. So the management plan would be where we incorporate the idea of DFC zone, we lay out what those boundaries are, and then lay out what the actual management is based on those new numbers. So that's the add-on, that's a knock-on that we have to do after the DFC side.
Yeah, and we've talked about the DOC zones. I think we first started talking about it in 2018, but we never actually got to the point where we said, can we have the blessing or approval to go move forward with these? But I think we're at the point where we need to say, let's move forward with the DFC zone concept. And it's not changing anything except where we're calculating the drawdowns.
And to be clear, we don't need necessarily to do that tonight.
No.
But we, you know,
As long as we kind of get we're all on board with this, I think that's,
we can evaluate further as we come back.
you know, a lot of what we were hoping to get tonight is going to be, let's, specifics of this is how we want to move forward. Are we okay with the pumpage we've included in those 5 aquifers? Let's figure out what to do with the free zone plus Savannah. Let's figure out what to do with the Simsboro. Give us direction, we'll make it work.
Does the board have any other questions? I propose that we go into executive session, but before we do, I would like to move agenda item number 19, executive session of the board pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, any closed session permitted by law, to consult with its attorneys and to seek advice regarding the following item: consultation with attorneys regarding contested case hearing requests submitted by Gatehouse Water LLC.
And Madam President, Gatehouse submitted 2 requests for contested case hearings. Gatehouse requested a contested case hearing in response to votes taken on July 21st, 2021, and a separate request for votes taken on July 27th. Both requests are regarding Gatehouse's, 1, Gatehouse's compliance with special condition number 8 of Gatehouse's 10 operating permits, and 2, a separate application to amend Gatehouse's 10 operating permits. The executive session would cover those 2 requests.
Okay, the note is the board may recess into executive session to consult with its attorneys regarding any posted matter in which the board may seek the advice of its attorneys under Government Code 551.071, or for any action on the agenda for which a closed session is permitted by law, and will reconvene an open session for any appropriate action on any matter considered in executive session. So we're going to executive.
Also call number 11 for the DFC item.
Yeah, we will be doing item number 11 in executive session first, and then item number 19 to follow, so that we don't have to adjourn twice.
And item number 11 is...
Item number 11 is discussion and possible action to provide guidance to the district general manager and hydrologist on the desired future conditions DFC is proposed by Groundwater Management Area 12 in the current round of joint planning. And we go into session at 9:10 p.m.
Are we still going to leave the room?
Yes, ma'am. Unfortunately, we can't close everyone.
Come on.
It is a potty breakfast. So far, so good.
Hey.
Check every day.
Yeah, and for months after.
Doing too bad all the time, yeah.
Going to the subsurface and right over there.
Not really.
So those springs well, those are the ones that
He has a way of, it's about time.
What do we think is coming out? Wells, the Teresa wells is probably not a huge amount, not like that. So I'd be interested to see it. I'd be really interested to kind of gauge if we have any sort of data or even anecdotal data as to what is high. Just see what's causing you to come down.
What's the latest, Jim?
Latest on the system.
How many hours do you have it on?
It's actually been kind of cool.
Lots of people.
Oh, that may be, yeah. Wait, no, isn't that the Georgia?
Yeah, that's maybe kind of.
I think it may be.
It's not exactly.
Yeah, I don't know, well, unless they're all showing the wells. I'd have to go look and see where it's going. If you do down on that creek or something like that.
Thank you. That's pretty, that's
But
I'm just trying to. She doesn't.
Everybody kept saying it's Jack. Well, at the end of the day, if he has a good alternative, you know, for four-dimensional, pretty much hasn't changed in terms of the other two guys.
Did I go slow enough? Yes, sir.
It was great.
I just,
I can sort of understand.
okay.
You
And it's a
sorry
good,
about
it's
the
okay,
questions.
no, it's okay. It's a good review of all the aquifers, so that's what
We need
it's
to
important too.
We need to let you know so we can do this.
No, you
Okay, you
stay
said,
with the
oh,
I
okay.
rely on his expertise.
Thank you for what you asked.
You did?
I thank you for it.
Okay, let's get going, guys. It's
Should we-
late. I'm sorry I was out on some of that gray ice.
Are these off?
I've been turning my.
Can you turn them off?
PA
Okay,
down.
and then I'm gonna stop recording.
Okay, we are coming out of executive session at 9:55. No votes were taken. We are on item number 19, there is no action to be taken by the board. On item 11, does the board have any motions they'd like to present?
No, we haven't. Okay, so.
Would you entertain a motion to take a straw vote on the proposed EFCs? Understanding this is not a binding vote, in order to get a sense of where the board stands on it.
Director Cook, I mean, at this time, the proposed DFCs are not posted to take action on as far as taking a straw vote.
Would that
We're
be
posted
considered
for
an action?
giving direction and guidance to the GM and the hydrogeologist. So I do not recommend that there be any action taking on individual
Would a
DFCs
straw vote
themselves.
be considered an action?
Yes.
Perhaps we could start with a motion on the minor aquifers. Does anyone like to propose anything?
On the minor aquifers, I move that we adopt the proposed DFCs as presented by Andy tonight, with the provision and the understanding, I'm talking about the Sparta and Queen City in particular, I'm not sure about the Calvary Bluff, that those DFCs be limited to what's already being pumped and to what would reasonably be expected to be pumped by exempt wells coming into production over the next 5 years.
Director Cook, if I may clarify, the action tonight is looking for direction on how to move forward with these, so we're not really looking for an adoption or anything else, but what I heard you say was that your motion is that would be to direct staff to continue working with the proposed DFCs and the minor aquifers for the time being, while we're trying to find I'm not going to expand on it, but to carry on with the proposed DFCs with the minor aquifers at this time.
Yes, with the understanding that you would include the increases needed for your estimation of how many, for exempt wells over the next 5 years.
Over the 50-year planning horizon.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So that would be my motion.
That'll be the Sparta, the Queen City. Did you want to include the Calvert Bluff in that as well?
I'm not sure. I am sure of Sparta and Queen City.
Okay. And what is with regard to the Hooper?
I'm not sure of the Hoover either. I think that may need some discussion, but I think we're near consensus on the Sparta and Queen City. And I'm not saying we should not take up the other aquifers, but I think we can get this behind us pretty quickly. So that is my motion.
Does anyone have a second? Go ahead.
Yeah. So I want to clarify, we need to actually designate the minor aquifers in that motion. And so did we hear that it's a motion to give guidance on the Sparta, Queen City, Hooper, and Calvert Bluff to
At this particular motion, I'm including only the Sparta and Queen City.
Okay, and then Calvert. Is there a second?
If there's not a second, then the motion fails. Does anyone have an alternate motion? This is to give guidance to Mr. Totten. Yes.
I'll make a motion that we go with the board, our first we talked about there, to make those numbers work the best they can and to hold it down, which is what we've talked about.
So your motion is to accept the DFCs for the Sparta, Queen City, Calvert, and Hooper. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
As presented by Andy Donald.
And as presented by Mr. Donnelly. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, questions from the board?
Just like to clarify the same point I made with Director Cook. that we're not looking to adopt a DFC or accept a DFC. You're just giving us guidance to carry on with those numbers.
Yes, giving you guidance. Is that okay, Mr. Shoddy?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Was it to have them be as close to the current DLCs as possible, or to use these ones that are proposed?
If I understood what Director Shoddy was saying, that he's saying, for the 4 minor aquifers to maintain the DFC, to carry on using the DFCs that have come down from the GMA 12 process, which leads us to discuss the Carrizo and the Simsboro, that being the two aquifers that have the largest issue in terms of changes in pumping.
As a clarification, that would require more pumping, or potential pumping of water out of Lee County?
The motion is proposed by
Mr. Shoddy.
So as Andy Donnelly presented, all the proposed pumping is similar to, some cases lower, some cases slightly higher to what was in the previous planning cycles. So there's not a significant difference in terms of pumping in those 4 formations for the most part.
Yes, but will it require more pumping out of, especially out of Lee County? Or enable more pumping out of Lee County other than for domestic and agricultural wells?
It's basically the only, well, all those pumping, like all the proposed pumping include increased pumping for domestic wells, but it's all based around existing permits and existing projections for increased domestic demand.
And there's nothing in there except those estimations that you just mentioned?
Estimated growth for domestic wells and estimated growth for existing permits, yes, sir.
Okay.
Jim, these 4 strata, they're not that prolific in what they produce, are they?
Not for the most part. There can be prolific sections of them, but they are not known for being.
Right.
I mean, two of them are certified minor
But they're
aquifers.
basically just minor producing areas or whatever.
2 of them are technically classified as minor aquifers. The other 2 are listed as major aquifers, but they're not. Neither of them are really prolific. No, sir.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board? Any other comments?
I'd just like to make a comment, if you look at it on the proposed, if you look at the lines that were drawn, and you were talking over the next 5 years, 3 of those 4, the pumpage actually would be less than what the original line was from time ago, so we are actually, I mean, we're not looking at an increase to talk about
Okay.
over the next 5 years. Yes, in the 70-year plan,
Yeah.
it is a little bit. Right now, we're concentrating, yes, we need to look at 70, but we're also looking at the next 5 years, and we're really not changing anything.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? So we have a motion and a second to provide guidance to the general manager for the for the Sparta, Queen City, Calvert Bluff, and Hooper. Are we ready to vote? Okay, all in favor?
The guidance being, keep the DFCs as presented.
Yeah. I will add, the guidance is per the presentation by Andy Donnelly today. Okay? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
Okay.
7-2.
Pardon?
7-2.
7-2. Okay. So motion passes. Now, does it matter if we do the Carrizo or the Simsboro?
There's only 8 present.
There's only here. 9.
Oh, that's right.
What's we missing? Oh, Dave Fleming, right, I'm sorry. So,
It's,
So what was the vote?
5-2?
Pardon?
Again,
Let's vote again.
I can't hear, I don't know what
And
the
then,
vote,
and then
how
we'll
many
do,
voted for and
ask for the
against.
reason. Pardon? All the
All right, let's do a roll call vote. All right. Director Semaine?
Aye.
Herb Cook?
Aye.
Larry Shoddy?
Aye.
Billy Sherrill?
Aye.
Phil Cook?
No.
This is out. Okay, Rogers?
No.
Carl Steinbach?
Aye.
That's a 5-2 vote, is that a,
No, I'm going to vote aye.
okay.
That gives me 6-2. This is just for the main office. Okay, I'd like to proceed. We've discussed, we now have Simsboro and the Carrizo still to discuss. I'd like to do the Simsboro next, if that's okay. Does anyone have a particular motion? I believe the proposed Simsboro DFC under the presentation by Andy Donnelly, I believe was 313. Is that correct?
313 is the result of the S12 run. That's our starting point.
Right. Does the board have any suggestions, discussion?
I have a question for Mr. Totten, please. Mr. Totten, what are the DFCs now for this Simsboro aquifer?
240 feet by 2060,
Can
by 2070, so 240 feet,
240 feet?
district-wide average, yes.
Can we use that as a jumping off point to where we might be able to leave it that way or move it up a little bit or something such as that so we don't have to take this great leap in faith?
That's pretty much what happened in the last planning cycle as well. The board asked to stay as close, I believe the previous DFC was 235 and the board moved it, I'm sorry, it was 237 and the board moved it to 240.
Round up to the nearest county.
So we could try and make 240 work again, yes, sir.
Well, if the board don't mind, I'd like to make a motion that we start out at the DFCs for the Simsboro at 240.
Any other questions or discussions? A second?
It's the same question I've had of the others. Will this, with 240 feet, allow for more potential water to be taken out of Lee County?
So at 240 feet, that's more than the current pumping in Lee or Bastrop County, depending on how we model it. So there would be the potential for increased pumping under 240 foot DFC, yes, sir.
What is the current pumping, just so I'll have all those figures in front
Are
of
we
me?
in the current mag?
Pardon?
The current mag or the current pumpage? The current availability of the mag is 30 to 35,000 acre feet per year. It changes post 5 decade.
And the current pumping from the Simsboro across the district is,
20,500 last year.
We still don't have a second, so
Well,
Mr. Sherrill's motion.
do we have a second on the motion yet?
No, we don't.
Okay, I'm sorry. That
That's
was-
okay. Is there a second?
For
Yep, let Mr.
discussion
Shoddy.
purposes, I'll second it.
Okay.
One
Mr.
quick
Shoddy, did you
one
have a
quick
question?
You said that the current pumpage for last year was 3,500?
No, it's 20,500.
20,000, all right, thank you.
21. Mr. Shoddy, you had your hand up. Did you want?
Oh, no, I was somewhere else there.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second for the
Okay,
DSC.
let me, at 240, does that allow for potential more pumping out of Lee County
more pumping than
than the current DFC?
So 240 foot is the current DFC.
Okay, I just wanted that
But
clear and stated.
with the new model, that would allow for more pumping than what the previous model allowed for. But it keeps the same drawdown at 240 foot.
More pumping but the same drawdown,
Yes, sir.
but more pumping.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions or comments by the board?
As I understand the motion, is the board saying
that's it. Is that correct?
I don't know. Would you answer that, Mr. Thompson?
So I think the motion is currently phrased, that would be sort of handcuffing us a little bit. Again, we're looking for some general guidance. So, because we don't hit exactly 240 through the, because there are other districts involved in this planning process. So maybe if it was rephrased as making it the goal to get as close to the previous DFC as possible, might be something that's a little bit more workable. But that's just my personal take on that.
That's kind of what I'm back to. I hate to give guidance by saying, this is the number, and that's it.
Mr.
Billy,
Chair.
could you reframe your motion to reflect what the general manager was suggesting?
In other words, to give the general manager direction that he's going to get as close to that number as he can.
Will you accept that amendment too?
That was my intention.
Okay.
Ask if he amends it.
But you don't have to get, that's, I said, the jumping off point. That's my intention. Is if you can get it close to that number as possible, fine.
So that's
If you
your,
can't, then that's what.
And Jim, that's what Billy just said is you're in accord with that. That's essentially the same thing you suggested.
Yes, sir, I think we can make that work.
Okay.
do you accept that as second? I believe you second?
Yes, I'll second
Okay. So, yes, Mr. Shaw.
Could I only say on that, if preferably when we say as close to that number as possible, if it could be on the lower end of it rather than on the higher end of it, I think would be a good thing for everybody.
So the Price is Right rules as close as possible without going over?
that. Are you offering that as a friendly amendment?
Yeah, is that a friendly amendment? Mr. Sherrill, do you accept that friendly amendment?
I sure do.
Thank
Well,
you.
I'll second it also.
Make it clear, this is guidance and not adopting
Yeah.
the DFC.
The motion is to give guidance to the general manager, Jim Totten, as he goes to GMA 12 to seek out the DOC of 240 or less per Mr. Shoddy. Anything else? Okay.
Is that the limit on it then?
Well, no, it's guidance, and our guidance is try to be between 240 or less. That's the guidance. Now, what he ends up with may be different. Is that appropriate, Jim?
I think that works.
We'll get this.
Okay. Right. Is the board ready to vote? All in favor?
Do a roll call again.
Oh, I think we'll do a roll call. Mr. Semang? Roll.
It is my understanding that the motion is you cannot go over 240?
No.
It's not that, we're giving guidance. The 240 or less is our desire, but he is going to be negotiating to get there as best he can.
You're giving them guidance.
Yes, we're
but
giving
not giving
guidance.
that range.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, what's your vote?
I vote aye.
Okay. And Herb Cook,
Aye, ma'am.
Larry Shoddy,
Aye.
Billy Sherrill,
Yes.
Phil Cook,
Yes.
Kay Rogers,
Aye.
Carl Steinbach.
Aye.
Okay,
What's
motion
your
passes.
vote?
Hmm?
Are you voting?
I don't have to. It's already a majority. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion passes with 7. I would vote yes as well, so that would be 8. Okay, now the Carrizo. Direction to give guidance to our general manager for the Carrizo Aquifer. Any comments, motions on the board?
Madam President, if I may, just to reiterate the issue with the Carrizo that's driving our DFCs here, the largest driver is going to be how production is handled in the Post Oak District. So any guidance that you can provide us with regard to how to interact with finding a resolution there would be helpful, because that's going to be the largest driver for our Carrizo DFCs.
What is your recommendation, Mr. Totten? What would you like to see?
I wish I had one.
Jim, am I clear that how much actual pumping Post Oak Savannah allows in the Carrizo is contingent upon how much GMA 12 prescribes?
So there are, like as Andy said, there are a lot of different solutions out there, and it's just a question of finding a solution that's agreeable to both Lost Pines and Post Oak Savannah in terms of how to address that.
And do you think that's likely to happen in this DFC cycle?
I hope so.
I mean, is there light at the end of the tunnel on that, or is it just unplowed ground?
I think I'll have a better idea after the next GMA meeting, in terms of where Post Oak is at, in terms of, their thought processes, but.
And in terms of our guidance to you on the DFCs, that's sufficient, essentially, that you'll have a better feel for it next time you come and you can advise us on that?
I think, a general direction a general direction towards, I think the impression I've gotten from the board and from the public is you're looking for a reduction in the drawdowns in the Carrizo. But you also acknowledge that the primary driver of our DFCs is not our production, but the production coming across the county line. So
that is my understanding, yes.
So I think in general, in this case, a generalized direction to work to try and find that solution at the GMA level that basically everyone, all five districts can live with, that reduces that overall drawdown. That's a good enough starting point for direction for us.
And that's really all the direction you need from us on the Carrizo at this time?
Unless y'all have a better idea than I do, yes.
Okay, forget that. Thank you.
That's for a motion.
Does anyone have a motion?
I've got a
Go ahead.
I don't know how to frame it. Jim, would you please frame a motion, or Natasha, would you, in terms of the discussion we just had?
I think if I was going to frame that, I would directing district staff and consultants to work at the GMA level to find a way to minimize the impacts in the Carrizo Aquifer associated with production, I guess to minimize the impacts in the Carrizo Aquifer in GMA 12 through cooperation with the other member districts.
So moved.
So I'll try to see if I got that right. Your motion is to give guidance to the general manager and Mr. Donnelly to go to the GMA, and at that level to see if you can minimize the impacts on the Carrizo without giving you a specific number. Is that correct?
Through cooperation with the GMA level, yes, sir.
Okay.
That's what I heard also. So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Carl, second. Okay, we have a motion, a second, for the GMA and Andrew Donnelly to go to the GMA and work to minimize the impacts on the Carrizo with the rest of the GMA member districts. We'll do a vote. Director Simone?
Aye.
Director Cook?
Aye, ma'am.
Director Shoddy?
Aye.
Director Sherrill?
Yes, ma'am.
Director Cook?
Yes.
Director Rogers?
Aye.
Director Steinbach?
Aye.
And I vote yes as well. Okay, ayes have it, the motion passes. Is there anything further guidance that you need from us this evening?
Not at this point in time, ma'am, but I would like to make a suggestion that we possibly move item 13 up, and that way we can take care of that, and then I will speed run to the best of my abilities the remainder of the agenda since it has been late night tonight.
You would like to take 13, appointment of board members to committees next?
Yes, sir.
I have no objection. Okay. With Mr. Talbot's resignation, we have a couple of committees that are not balanced, and we need to add some members. Here it is. Okay. And plus, I do have one new committee I would like to hire. The first committee that the new committee I want to hire is a hiring committee to assist Mr. Totten in hiring the new staff. Jim, because he will be the hiring supervisor, will be the chair of this committee. Our intent is just to assist him in the process. We all have different ideas and visions of what kind of a person we want to have. And so basically, Jim will serve as the chair of the hiring committee, and additional members that have agreed to serve are Mike Sabang, Kay Rogers, Natasha Martin is going to serve as well, and myself. The next one is the budget committee. David Fleming is currently the chair of the budget committee, along with Billy, Cheryl, myself. I'm appointing Kay Rogers, and she's agreed to serve on the budget committee for the next meeting. Let's see. The DFC committee. Again, Mr. Talbot was there, and I have appointed Phil Cook to the DFC committee. But in addition to the DFC committee, which also includes David Fleming and Larry Shaw, I have asked Mr. Herb Cook to serve as chair of the DFC committee, and he has agreed. Should I include for Melissa, or should I have some, I'll talk to Melissa about some for her future work as well. But that's all I have for this evening. I just need to get that into the record. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, Madam President. So the next item up on our agenda is we need board approval on the release of funds from the Lee County groundwater mitigation funds. There's a small spreadsheet that's on the table in front of all of you that lists out the applications we've received so far. If you look at the rightmost column, which says total, you'll see the first number there is $8,075.79. That is the reimbursements that have been approved administratively in the office, so that's reimbursements under $3,500. The next number that you see is two numbers, $38,684. Those are not at issue tonight. That is the cost of two wells that are seeking replacement. We'll need to develop a policy on how we want to handle that, so we're not going to address that tonight, but I didn't want you to see those costs. The next number down, the $32,922, those are the mitigations that we are seeking approval for tonight. That is mitigation for a total of 6 wells with costs ranging between $3,700 and $8,100. And then the final number that you see listed at the bottom is if all mitigation to this point was approved, that we'd be at about $80,000 total mitigation. But the action that we're looking for tonight are basically the 6 bottommost applications where you see approved by NWC, that'd be the Monitoring Well Committee. These were all reviewed through the Monitoring Well Committee and approved for mitigation. The only caveat that we put on that mitigation committee is recommended some of these applications include the cost of an extended warranty on products, and the mitigation committee felt that paying for extended warranties was not part of the mitigation plan. And so they would ask that we pay the full cost minus any cost of any extended warranties associated with these applications.
Jim, this doesn't include the Timothy Ramsey and the Peggy Brown, which were entirely new wells.
Yes, sir, that's correct. We're not seeking approval on that. We need to develop further policy on how to handle full well replacements.
Let's be clear on that.
So with that being said, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we'd be looking for a motion to approve the release of funds for any applications that have been approved by the Monitoring Well Committee today.
I make a motion that we approve those funds
I second.
for those specific people.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, questions, comments for the board? Are you ready to vote then? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Oops.
Can I ask a question from the audience about the mitigation?
What is your question?
Is there any proof that there was any results that were caused by the actions of the Lost Pines District members?
I'm not aware that was not part of the monitoring well discussion. Jim, right?
No, sir, I'll be happy to discuss that with you after the meeting.
Okay.
Jim, do you want to take up what to do about the two completely new wells?
I think we need to get some more direction from our legal counsel and then bring that back to the monitoring committee before we try and wade into that. So that motion was approved. I apologize, I'm always in my place.
That's okay.
Okay, so I guess that brings us to the financial report.
Yeah. Moving to item number 14, consideration of the financial report for the period of August 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2021.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. The operating fund balance for the reporting period stood at $516,318.27. The taxable fund balance stood at $3,557,717.28, for a grand total of $4,074,035.05. User fees collected to date are tracking where we expect to be for this time of year. We were slightly ahead in previous months, but at this point we're about even for where we expect to be based on assuming that even payments across every month. As far as expenses go, everything's tracking again where we expect to be for this time of year. We have noted previously there are a few small line items where we have had where we've exceeded the budget, website fees, a couple other things that we'll bring you budget amendments for at the end of the year. Additionally, I do expect that we may have some further pull down on our telephone line item. The analog phone system in our office has been slowly but surely failing on us, and we're in the process of upgrading the office to a voice over IP system. That there are going to be some costs with getting that up and running, but once we do, it should significantly improve our communication ability within the office, and hopefully we won't lose phones every time it rings. Yes, sir.
Will that system be able to be moved to our new building if we ever build it?
Yes, ma'am. That was one of the first questions we asked in terms of portability. So, with that said, all the other, like I said, aside from previously noted expenses, everything else is tracking where we expect to be for this time of year. If you have any questions, though, I'd be happy to address them.
Is that it, Mr. Totten? Is there a motion to approve the financial report?
I so moved. Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, wait, any discussion? I heard you're still awake. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Okay, general manager's report's next.
Madam President, members of the board, the general manager's report for the meeting September 15th, 2021. Because we didn't last month, I broke out the Form 100 and Form 300s for the past 2 months. As Director Rogers noted, period of July 1st, July 31st, we had 9 new wells registered in the district. During August 1st to August 31st, there were another 23 in the district. The Form 300 registration of existing wells, we had 1 that was registered in July, and we didn't have any that were registered in August. Those numbers do not reflect wells that were registered as part of the mitigation program. I didn't include that in, but I will include those numbers in the future. During the reporting period, approximately 4 water quality tests were performed and 23 wells were gauged. This was kind of inter monitoring period, so this doesn't include our big circles through North Lee County. That's probably going to start up again next week, so we'll have circle all our monitoring wells in North Lee County, and then in early October we'll start our district-wide monitoring. So you'll see a lot more wells gauged over the next 2 months, most likely. Attached to the general manager's report is a proposal for an evaluation of predicted groundwater impacts. This is something I mentioned earlier in the year. It's a study that Bob Mace is putting together out of Texas State. I know that this is partially being funded through the Gonzales County Underground Water Conservation District. I've reached out to see if they are taking more funding on that project, if there's possibly an improved scope of work, but essentially it's a study to look at what hydrologists predicted would happen in Gonzales County with some permits and what's actually happening in Gonzales County to kind of evaluate the accuracy of predictions based on different methods. I think it could give us some good data. I think if there's the opportunity to expand the scope of work, it's something we might want to look into putting a little money into. But at this point in time, I'm still trying to find out where they're at in funding that project. But I wanted y'all to have the basic scope of work, and we can discuss it next month and see if it's something the district wants to invest a little money into. And now, having appointed the budget committee for the year, we do need to have the budget committee start meeting. There are several matters we need to discuss. First of all, is beginning to set the budget, the operating budget for the 2022 year. We also need to consider line items we previously discussed, possibly adding a line item for cost sharing for well plugging for landowners that need to plug abandoned wells. Through the hiring, the interview process for board members, we also got into some discussion about possibly increasing educational and outreach opportunities, that we would need some additional budget, board funding for that. And we also need to evaluate continuing funding for the county mitigation program. So all those are issues that will be before the budget committee over the next couple of months. So we'll begin scheduling to have those discussions. With regard to upcoming meetings, we have Region K was today at 10 a.m. and GMA 12 is scheduled for October 6th at 10 a.m. at Post Oak Savannah's offices in Milano, Texas. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Are the 3 new City of Bastrop wells going to be in the Calvert below?
Those would be Simsboro wells. And we requested some more information from them, so we're still in the process of trying to evaluate that. We know that there's some issues about ownership of groundwater, so we're making sure we have all those I's dotted and T's crossed.
Thank you, Jim. Item number 16, discussion of Lost Pines Groundwater Conservation District legislation, related legislation, and/or activities occurring that affect or pertain to the district and groundwater. I'm not aware of any. Anyone else?
Nothing beyond the meetings already mentioned.
Right. Okay. Number 17, consideration of a board workshop, conferences, meetings, and educational opportunities board members desire to attend. Does anyone have anything? No? Number 18, consideration of agenda calendar and events. We don't have a date yet for the LCRA hearing, but we're getting very close. Working with dates the Bastrop Convention Center is available, the attorneys, etc. So we're hoping maybe in a couple of days, not guaranteed, we're hoping in a couple of days to have something on that. Anyone else have anything else for future agenda?
The next regular scheduled board meeting will be October 20th.
Yes?
And as we're still trying to find a suitable Bastrop location, it will be held here.
So we expect that we're going to continue to be getting for the time being.
What are potential locations over there?
We were waiting to see if the first, the only place we had left on our list besides Aqua's convention, the Aqua boardroom, was possibly one of the First National Bank's community rooms, and we were waiting for, the last time we checked, they were still closed due to COVID.
Jim, has the board already approved every potential meeting place that you're looking at?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is First National approved?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll talk to Reed shortly.
I haven't checked in a couple of months, so they may be opened again.
All right, we've already covered item number 19. So we are ready to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Second? We are adjourned.